Chapter 454. The head disciple of the Drifting Snow Martial School, Ling Hanya, looked interested. With Wang Qi here, perhaps we can see something. The battle was not over yet, so he would not say who would win or lose for sure. Wang Qi was powerful, and was not weaker than him. Yi Chen was also hiding his power, and would not be easy to deal with. Therefore, in his opinion, this battle would be 50-50, unlike what most people thought, where Yi Chen would lose for sure. Sister Feng, who do you think will win? Qing Zhu asked Feng Yanro. Feng Yanro said with a low voice, I think it will be Yi Chen. Oh. Qing Zhu was not surprised at all. Regardless of whether she admitted it or not, Yi Chen was indeed very powerful. The 100 wins in a row in the Blue Mountain Island was the proof. It was Ling Hanya who was surprised by Feng Yanro's opinion. He already thought highly of Yi Chen, but Feng Yanro thought even more highly of him. Your power is not bad, but if this is all you have, you will not be my opponent. Wang Qi had already formed the shape of his martial spirit 2 years ago, and right now, it had already reached the critical point. He was only one step away from the real martial spirit. Besides that, his top-rank Earth Realm martial art had also reached the peak of the 13th realm, and he had completely learned a top-rank Earth Realm martial art. He had also learned a profound sense martial art, and had also trained it to 40% completion. With this many ace attacks, Wang Qi did not worry about Yi Chen at all. His opponents would be Ling Hanya and the Beast Prince Mo Xiang. Only these people would be able to make him use all of his power. For him, Yi Chen would only be a bit more troublesome. The corner of Yi Chen's mouth curled up. You will change your mind soon. Oh yeah? That would depend on whether you are qualified or not. Red Water Godly Fist. Wang Qi's eyes turned cold. As he crossed his arms, he performed the exclusive martial art of the Red Water Martial School, the Red Water God Fist Art. In Wang Qi's hand, the power of this fist art was a couple of times more powerful than the Red Water God Fist Art that Huang Kaishan had performed. The powerful fist power was like a tsunami, each wave higher than the last. Green Lotus Mountain Splits. Yi Chen wasn't afraid of the surging fist energy at all. He tapped his foot on the ground and leapt out like a bolt of lightning. He raised his greenwood sword high above his head and swung it down vertically. The sword light, which was engraved with a towering green lotus, tore apart the sky and slashed out with a mountain-splitting and earth-splitting power. An earth-shaking explosion was heard. Wang Qi's fist power had been shattered by the sword light, and Yi Chen's sword light had also been shattered by the explosion. In the first exchange, Yi Chen had the upper hand. Not bad. You deserve me to be a little more serious. Wang Qi's expression did not change at all. He had expected Yi Chen to have this kind of power. If not, then he had overestimated himself. Increasing his Jin Yuan to another level, Wang Qi bent his knees slightly and his whole body shot up into the sky, throwing out a punch towards Yi Chen. There was nothing fancy about this punch, it was just faster, more brutal, and more aggressive. Under the push of the water mentality, purple lightning had even appeared in the fist power, which was caused by the power of the punch. Facing this powerful punch, Yi Chen shook his wrist and stabbed out with his greenwood sword. A dot of sword light accumulated on the tip of the sword, eventually turning into a green lotus and shooting out. Pooh! A subtle clashing sound was heard. Wang Qi's fist power and the green lotus that had been formed by the sword light had been destroyed together. The water and sword qi were like fountains, shooting out in all directions. This blast wave alone could kill a lot of normal astral-reaching realm warriors within seconds. His body, which was gliding backward, suddenly turned around. Wang Qi had not only taken out that aggressive radiation power, but had also guided that power into a huge swirl. With the centrifugal power of the swirl, he opened his hands and dove down from the sky like an eagle. Strong water swirl. As he punched out, all the water elemental energy in the sky and on the ground was sucked dry. Along with the fist power, the water elemental energy started to spin crazily, forming a flat whirlpool that was constantly shrinking. This flat whirlpool was so condensed and sharp that it even made a sharp whistling sound as it tore through the air. It was indeed the last movement of his red water godly fist art, which was equivalent to a profound sense martial art with 30% of its power. Being performed by Wang Qi, its power was even more powerful. Sky Thunder Cut. Right then, the separating shadow flying art would definitely not be used, since that swirl contained a very powerful suction power. If it was not powerful enough to break through, it would be impossible for him to use his speed to get out of the attacking range. Therefore, he would have to find the best angle to break through the swirl. Performing his sword steps, Yi Chen used his body as a sword, stabbing out to the right side of the swirl. At the same time, the greenwood sword in his hand had been replaced by the thunder sword. He held the sword tightly with both of his hands, holding it horizontally in front of his chest as he sliced through the swirl. Crack! All of these movements had been completed within a second. Once the sword tip sliced through, the sword light with electric light exploded from the inside of the swirl. What? You broke the swirl. Wang Qi's pupils shrank. Take one sword attack from me. After breaking the swirl with one sword attack, Yi Chen did not change his direction at all. He threw out countless sword lights towards Wang Qi while his whole body approached him. Piss off. Wang Qi threw out both of his fists continuously. His fist aura had reached its peak within a second, giving people a feeling like a dam that was filled with water had suddenly been broken, and a huge wave had poured out. Chin 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 chin, the fist tip and the sword tip continued to clash together, bringing up bright sparks. The burning chi waves had even shaved off the surface of the platform layer after layer, shooting out in all directions. Hit! The thunder sword curved into a shocking arc as Yi Chen suddenly bounced out. His left pinky finger and index finger shot out two beams of sword chi, shooting out with a hissing sound. Not good. Wang Qi had not expected Yi Chen's fingers to be able to shoot out sword chi as well, so he only had enough time to throw out a punch to shatter the first beam of sword chi. The second beam of sword chi had pierced through his protective Jin Yuan, bringing out a large amount of blood. What? The Red Water Man was wounded? He was wounded by one sword chi attack from Yi Chen. Shooting out sword chi from his hand. How unexpected. Have you guys noticed that from the beginning to the end, Yi Chen has always had the upper hand? No matter how much he increases his power, he cannot turn the situation around. Doesn't this mean that the Red Water Man is not Yi Chen's opponent at all? Most of the people had their mouths wide open, not knowing what to say. In the square formation of the Thunder region, the young master of beasts, Mo Xiang, rubbed his chin and laughed. I guess what I said outside the city must have been taken as a joke by them. The Thunder Princess glanced at him. What joke? Nothing. I just made a big mistake. I thought he was just a normal warrior. Mo Xiang thought that he was more powerful than the Red Water Man, and since Yi Chen was able to beat him with a slight advantage, even if he was not as powerful as him, it would not be that much weaker. It is just a small mistake. It is impossible for people to not make mistakes. But, as long as the mistake is still within one's tolerance, why should one care? The speaker was an evil-looking young man wearing a long robe with a gold crown on his head. His eyes were long and narrow, and he had a cynical look on his face. Mo Xiang chuckled and said, "It seems like the young leader is very confident." The young leader he was talking about was the young leader of the Shining Martial School, which was a rank 5 martial institution in the Thunder region. The current leader was his great-grandfather, the Shining King. As the descendant of the Life and Death Realm warrior, Yin Zhongli was very talented, and his comprehensive ability was not low either. In fact, at the level of the southern region, the King bloodline was not that rare. The key was still whether or not one could fully activate it. Same here. Yin Zhongli said with a lazy face. The martial tea gathering was in the spirit of competition, so the Thunder Princess was just about to announce the result when Wang Qi yelled, "Princess Jing, we are not done yet." The Thunder Princess said, "Wang Qi, winning and losing are normal things for warriors. You do not need to worry about it." Wang Qi tried to explain, "It was just a moment of carelessness on my part. If I lose, then it would be unfair. Don't worry, I will only need one attack. One attack, and I will beat him." "All right then." The Thunder Princess nodded. Looking back at Yi Chen, Wang Qi's pupils started to turn red. "Very well. I did not expect that I would be wounded by you because of carelessness. But, if you think that you have beaten me for sure, then you are very wrong. The next attack, I want you to accept your defeat." Yi Chen did not seem to care. "I will." Yi Chen's attitude had pissed Wang Qi off. He did not say another word as his aura rushed out like a flood. It was getting stronger and stronger. The auras clashed with each other, bringing up a cracking sound. Waves of invisible holes started to spread out. Water Beast Fist Wave. Wang Qi's ace attack was naturally the low-rank profound sense martial art of the Redwater Martial School, Water Beast Fist Wave. Different from Huang Kaishan, Wang Qi had already trained this profound sense martial art to 40%, which meant that its power was way more powerful than the fierce water swirl. Pushing his Jin Yuan to its limit, Wang Qi threw out 18 punches towards Yi Chen. Each punch was like a whirlpool. 18 whirlpools spread out in the air, blocking Yi Chen's escape route. The whirlpools merged together, leaving behind 6 huge whirlpools that were the size of a stone mill. They formed a 6-pointed star, attacking towards where Yi Chen was standing. At that moment, it seemed like time had stopped. Water Beast Fist Wave has increased my battling power by 3 times. It has combined defense, attack, and locking all at the same time. Let me see how you are going to block it out." After battling for a while, Wang Qi was very clear about Yi Chen's power. Therefore, he was sure that Yi Chen would not be able to block it out. Even if it were him, he would not be able to block it out either. Once he performed his Water Beast Fist Wave, it would be a piece of cake for him to beat someone stronger than him. Plus, Yi Chen's power was only at the same level as his. Facing this horrifying fist attack, Yi Chen's expression did not change at all. "You think that was all I had before? I have never liked to use my absolute power to beat my opponents. For me, it is more fun to beat my opponents with techniques." His sword intent shot up into the sky. The space around Yi Chen started to twist a little, making it impossible to see his body clearly. All that could be seen was the twisted space suddenly disappearing. Yi Chen took a step out and threw out a sword attack towards the 6 huge whirlpools. It was a slanted sword attack without any fancy moves, but the sword intent contained in it was enough to shock everyone. This extremely powerful sword intent had reached beyond the limits of an astral-reaching realm warrior, reaching the Sea of Souls realm. With the help of that horrifying sword intent, this sword attack of Yi Chen's was unbelievably fast and heavy. With one sword attack, the poetic perspective of the Water Beast Fist Wave had been broken. Boom! The thick electric arc shot out in all directions, shattering Wang Qi's fist power completely. He himself even puked out a little bit of blood. Chapter 455. I did not sense it wrong, did I? This is the sword spirit level sword intent. Indeed. This is indeed the sword spirit level sword intent. Perhaps he has formed a real sword spirit. I remember that it is much harder for a sword artist to form a sword spirit than a warrior to form a martial spirit. Although some of them have reached the Sea of Souls realm, they still might not be able to form a sword spirit. The attacking power of the sword intent is already more powerful than the martial intent. Right now, there is even a gap of 1 level between them. Wang Qi's loss is understandable. Like a tornado, all of the young warriors from different regions started to discuss crazily. Inside the Thunder region, Mo Xiang looked at the Thunder Princess with surprise and asked, "Did he really form a sword spirit?" Forming a sword spirit meant too much. In the whole southern region, it seemed like only the Edict Prince had formed a martial spirit. Even the Thunder Princess and the Astral Spirit's son had not done it yet. The Thunder Princess shook her head, although its power is not weaker than the sword spirit level sword intent, but if I sense it carefully, there is still a slight difference. If I have guessed it right, he should have learned the elemental sword intent earlier, which is a couple of times more powerful than the normal sword intent. It should be comparable to the sword spirit level sword intent. Elemental sword intent. Mo Xiang and Yin Zhongli exchanged a look, their expressions becoming more and more serious. The young warriors who had come here could be divided into 3 levels. Without exaggeration, Yi Chen was already in the 3rd level. His advantage in terms of sword spirit was something that no one else could compete with. Elemental sword intent. Mo Xiang and Yin Zhongli were not the only ones who were shocked. The 2 young men in black robes sitting next to Xikongsheng were also shocked. As one of the Evil King Pavilion's 7 knights, they had a lot of experience. Naturally, they could tell that Yi Chen had not formed a sword spirit yet. The reason why this sword intent was so powerful was because of its intense killing element. No wonder you value him so much. He is indeed not a normal sword artist. The 7th knight let out a breath slowly and said to Xikongsheng. Xikongsheng knocked on the table with his fingers and said, "A couple of years ago, I knew that it would not be that easy to beat him. But, the power he has shown so far is not enough to surprise me. I hope that he has more powerful ace attacks. Otherwise, it would be too boring." "Hee, you are such a crazy man." The 7th knight and the 6th knight forced a smile. On the field, Yi Chen and Wang Qi were completely different. Yi Chen still looked handsome and elegant. Holding his long sword, he looked clean and spotless. Wang Qi was in a much more difficult situation. His clothes were torn, his lips were stained with blood, and his hair was messed up by the strong wind. He no longer looked like the little master Redwater. "You!" Before he could say anything, Wang Qi spat out another mouthful of blood. He was so angry that he became muddle-headed. Previously, he had confidently said that he would defeat Yi Chen in one move, leaving no room for him to turn the tables. Not only did he fail to achieve his goal, but he was also instantly killed by Yi Chen. The dramatic ending gave him a hard slap in the face, making him dizzy and wishing that he could never wake up in this life. How is this possible? How could I lose to him? This is impossible. It should not be. I am the #1 young warrior in the Wavy Cloud region, and he is only a warrior from the South Rudra region. After puking out a mouthful of blood, Wang Qi looked like he had lost his soul. Yi Chen sighed. Was it really that embarrassing to be beaten by himself? Not to mention the others, besides the top 3 dragon-level martial geniuses, the rest of them did not make him feel like fighting at all. Of course, most of them probably did not think that they would have the power to challenge a true dragon-level warrior. "Wang Qi, you have lost. Get down now." The Thunder Princess reminded Wang Qi so that he would not continue to lose face. After all, his opponent was the face of the Wavy Cloud region. Wang Qi lifted up his head, looking a bit lost. In the Gold Sand region formation, the aggressive astral spirit Sun sneered, "Trash. You have lost the battle and the formation." Hee. The purple-haired beauty right next to the astral spirit Sun laughed, "Things have been a little different from what you had expected. It is normal for you to lose your soul. But, this Yi Chen is not simple. He has beaten the Wavy Cloud region with his own power and brought the South Rudra region to the 2nd level. Even if someone from the South Rudra region manages to surpass him in the future, no one would forget his contribution. Wang Qi, why are you so fixated on what is right in front of you?" Right then, the Edict Prince spoke. His voice seemed to contain a kind of power that could make one's heart clear. As soon as it reached everyone's ears, they all became serious and cleared their thoughts. When it reached Wang Qi's ears, his messy eyes started to focus again, and he regained his spirit. With a blush on his face, Wang Qi knew that the Edict Prince had helped him out and saved him from losing face. He held his fists together and said, "Thank you." The Edict Prince sighed, "Winning and losing are normal things for warriors. If you want to never lose in your life, you have to have an unyielding spirit. You have lost for real this time. Get down now." "Yes." Wang Qi had a bitter look on his face. As he brushed past Yi Chen, he said with a light voice, "This time, you have won. Next time, I will not lose." Yi Chen did not say anything. Beating him was already enough, so there was no need to break his confidence. Head disciple has lost as well. Huan Kaishan's expression was even more bitter than Wang Qi's. In the Blue Mountain Island Challenge tournament, he had suffered a crushing defeat to Yi Chen without even the slightest chance to fight back. He originally thought that his head disciple would beat Yi Chen in this tea gathering and let him see Yi Chen's face of defeat. However, the heavens seemed to be against him. Even his head disciple, who was so powerful in his heart, had been defeated, and it was a clean defeat without any trace of force. Better not mess with him. We can't afford to mess with him. Huan Kaishan made up his mind to not mess with Yi Chen anymore. In fact, he did not dare to mess with Yi Chen. Otherwise, how could he expect Wang Qi to beat Yi Chen? Sister Feng is right. It seems like head disciple's insight is not as good as Sister Feng's. Qingzhu teased Ling Hanya who was in front of her. Ling Hanya forced a laugh, "I was wrong. Since even Wang Qi was not his opponent, then I would not be his opponent either. He is almost at the 3rd level. There were not many warriors at the 3rd level. There were 3 to 4 warriors in the Thunder region, 2 to 3 in the Floating Light region, and 2 to 3 in the Gold Sand region. All the other regions had 1 each, or none at all, plus Yi Chen. As for the rest of the hidden warriors, they had not been exposed yet. The climax of the tea gathering was still far from starting. Yi Chen has won. Our South Rudra region status has surpassed the Wavy Cloud region. Mu Lingfeng was very excited, even more excited than when he had beaten Wang Qi. Tuabaku chuckled, "Just watch. The next tea gathering will depend on you guys. Yes, I will work even harder." Before he came, Mu Lingfeng was more or less proud, thinking that he was not weaker than anyone. The only pity was that he did not have the chance to fight with Yi Chen and the rest of the warriors in the Hidden Dragon rank competitions. Right now, he finally knew that if he wanted to reach the level of Yan Qihua and Li Daoxian, he would have to train with all his might. Which one of the martial geniuses here was not talented enough? However, if he wanted to reach the level of Yi Chen, it would not be something that could be done in a day. In the pavilion next to them, Li Daoxian said, "He is still ahead of us. It seems like if we want to catch up to him, we will have to spend our whole lives." Yan Qihua said with determination, "Even if we have to, we will have to catch up to him. If Yi Chen wants to catch up, then someone else will have to catch up as well. Don't forget, he is the only one in the whole South Rudra region who can compete with Yi Chen." Li Daoxian looked at Sikong Sheng, who was wearing black robes. He was even more mysterious than before, and it was all because of Yi Chen. Thinking about how even Sikong Sheng had been pushed to this extent by Yi Chen, Li Daoxian could not help but admire him. Yan Qihua also glanced at Sikong Sheng and said, "Catching up to someone is always better than having no one to catch up to. Especially seeing the martial geniuses out there." Li Daoxian nodded, "Indeed. Catching up to them will make us improve even faster. I also believe that since we can catch up to them, we will be able to catch up to the whole world as well." Li Daoxian asked himself if it were not for Yi Chen, he would not be as powerful as he was right now. Only with pressure would there be motivation. After beating Wang Qi, Yi Chen had already won 3 times in a row. His reputation was catching up to the Beast Prince, Mo Xiang and the others. Still not going down. He is not planning to challenge all the way, is he? Arrogant. Although the Red Water Man is powerful, there are still people who are more powerful than him. Especially the Thunder region, the Floating Light region, and the Gold Sand region, the top 5 regions, which one of them is not more powerful than the Red Water Man? It seems like the 3 winds have made him a bit dizzy. It is not that easy to become famous in one go. Hee, just you wait. Someone will go up and beat him until he wakes up. I wonder who else besides the Thunder Princess and the Astral Spirit's son will go up to challenge him. Seeing that Yi Chen did not plan to go down, a lot of people got angry. They thought that Yi Chen was too arrogant and did not care about anyone else. Yi Chen did not know what they were thinking, and even if he did, he would not care. The reason why he stayed was not to challenge the top 3 true dragon-level warriors, because the martial tea gathering was not a challenge. If you wanted to challenge someone, you would have to see if they were interested or not. The reason why he stayed was to bring the South Rudra region to the top of the 2nd level. After doing all that, he would not care about the battles at this level anymore, and the others would not dare to look down on the South Rudra region either. Ha! Just beating one Wang Qi. I, the Black Sword Artist, would like to challenge you. A teenager in black robes with a black sword on his back flew out. Besides that sharp sword aura, there was also that evil Qi that seemed to want to devour people. It was an evil Qi that only people who had killed thousands of people would have. The evil Qi combined with the sword aura, and with just a thought, it could almost make people hallucinate. It was indeed the number 1 warrior of the Black Gold region, the Black Sword Artist, also known as the leader of the Black Gold region's top 4. It had been rumored that his power was at the same level as Wang Jilin and Hanya. You use a sword, and I also use a sword. Let's see whose sword technique is more lethal. The Black Sword Artist was very confident in his sword art. His sword art was different from the others, as it only aimed for killing. He believed that killing was the ultimate goal of his sword art. Who? As he finished talking, the Black Sword Artist took out the huge black sword on his back and waved out a heavy sword attack. Crack! The platform was shattered, and the black sword light carried a sharp killing chi as it shot out. Wherever it went, it brought up a storm. What? The Black Sword Artist has also learned the Slaughter Sword Intent. Slaughter Sword Intent versus Slaughter Sword Intent. No wonder the Black Sword Artist is so confident. Before learning the Slaughter Sword Intent, the Black Sword Artist's power was at the same level as Wang Qi, but after learning it, Wang Qi would not be able to compete with the Black Sword Artist without a doubt. Everyone thought that the Black Gold region would be weaker than the Wavy Cloud region and the Misty Snow region. But once the Black Sword Artist showed up, he had told everyone that under his leadership, the Black Gold region would not be something that the other 2 regions could compete with. Flashing his body to avoid the sword light, Yi Chen was a bit surprised. It was his first time facing someone else's sword intent, and he could tell that the Black Sword Artist was way more powerful than Wang Qi. Chapter 456. Rumble. Rumble. Another 2 black sword lights shot out. These black sword lights were extremely violent, creating black tornadoes as they attacked towards Yi Chen from both sides. His clothes and long black hair danced in the air as Yi Chen held the thunder sword and slashed horizontally. Crack! With the 2 of them as the center, the space began to distort, and the airflow was sucked in, unable to escape. The sword light that had created the black tornado suddenly shattered, causing the surrounding platform to be full of holes, and not a single spot was left unscathed. The Slaughter Sword Intent is too frightening. This tea gathering is indeed full of hidden dragons and crouching tigers. There are actually 2 sword geniuses who have comprehended the Slaughter Sword Intent. Together with Gold Sand Region's Life Taker Leng Zhua, the 3 of them are the top 3 sword artists of this tea gathering. Yeah, Life Taker Leng Zhua is indeed not to be underestimated. 1 year ago, he had defeated Gold Sand Region's former number 2, Wan Zhuming. His strength is just below Astral Spirit Sun. I wonder who will have the last laugh among the top 3 sword artists. Everyone discussed spiritedly, and they were rather interested. Raising his black sword artist looked at Yi Chen from afar and said indifferently, "I am not like other sword artists. Once my sword leaves its sheath, I want to see blood. Otherwise, my mind will not be smooth. You better be prepared for serious injuries, or else you will blame me for not reminding you." Yi Chen smiled slightly. "This blood might not be mine. It might be yours." Yi Chen's voice was not loud, and his expression was not cold or serious, but everyone could clearly feel a strong will coming from him. Although his attitude is arrogant, I have to admit that this person is not simple. Facing black sword artist who has comprehended the slaughter sword intent, he dares to speak like this. I wonder if it is his nature or if he is confident. What kind of confidence does he need to have to dare to say such words? Without a doubt, Yi Chen's words had enraged black sword artist. He said coldly, "Whose blood it is, we will know soon." Wolf killing. Black sword artist's right foot moved half a step as he slashed down with his black sword. The brutal black sword light was like a hot knife cutting through butter, carrying the howling of a wolf as it slashed towards Yi Chen. Break! Flying into the air, Yi Chen shattered the black sword light with one sword attack. His left hand reached out from the side of his waist. Two beams of green lotus sword chi shot out with a swishing sound. This move is useless against me. Black sword artist reached out his left hand as well. His index finger and middle finger clasped onto his thumb, shooting out two black finger energies. The finger energies were like blades, blocking the green lotus sword chi in the air. Puff! Puff! Black sword artist had underestimated the green lotus sword chi in the end. Although his finger art was not weak, it was still no match for the green lotus sword chi that Yi Chen had hidden inside his body. The black finger power paused for a second before shattering immediately, releasing two circular shockwaves. The shockwave spread out very fast, but still could not catch up to the speed of the green lotus sword chi. Ding ding! Left with no choice, the black sword swordsman raised his black greatsword. Two sparks exploded in the air in front of his chest. What kind of sword chi is this? It is not weaker than the sword chi from a great sword at all. It might even be a bit stronger. Black sword artist originally thought that Yi Chen had cultivated some kind of finger art, causing the finger energy to be similar to sword chi, but not as powerful as sword chi. But now, he realized that he was wrong. The might of these two strands of sword chi far surpassed ordinary sword chi. The black sword artist was surprised, but so was Yi Chen. He knew the power of the green lotus sword chi better than anyone else. Under normal circumstances, the sword chi that he used with his mid-rank great sword would not even be as powerful as the green lotus sword chi. Only the sword chi from his ace attacks would be able to suppress the green lotus sword chi. However, his opponent was able to use his finger power to reduce the sword chi's power by half, which meant that it must be a top-rank Earth Realm finger art. Only a top-rank Earth Realm finger art could do this. I have already used up 4 beams of my green lotus sword chi. I will not use them again if I can. The green lotus sword chi was his ace in close combat. Yi Chen did not want others to know his bottom line. Seizing the chance when the black sword artist had shattered the green lotus sword chi, Yi Chen's body suddenly dropped down. The 1,000-meter-long sword light was like a heavenly sword as it slashed down. Break for me. If it were a normal sword artist, they would definitely focus on defense and focus on defending against Yi Chen's heavy attack. However, in the dictionary of the black sword artist, there was no concept of defense. He opened his mouth and roared. His black hair stood up while his inky black chi shot up into the sky, accompanying the huge black sword in his hand to meet the incoming sword light. Boom! The two swords clashed, and a dark blue energy ball appeared out of nowhere. At first it was only the size of a pinky finger, but after half a blink of an eye, it had expanded to 1 meter. Not good. Everyone, block out the energy wave. The Thunder Princess frowned. Her voice was pushed by her Jin Yuan, spreading out at a supersonic speed. At the same time, she waved her slender palm, and a crystal-clear Jin Yuan wall flickering with thunder and lightning rose up, blocking the entire pavilion behind it. It then spread out to both sides, connecting with the Jin Yuan walls created by the others. Waiting until all the Jin Yuan walls were connected into a circle, sealing off the entire mountain pointer stage, the dark blue energy ball exploded. Because the sound of the explosion was too loud, no one could hear it. They could only see a dazzling light in front of them as the Jin Yuan walls were weakened bit by bit. Then, the energy wave that had nowhere to vent shot up into the sky, turning into a 2 Li thick energy light beam that shot up into the sky, tearing apart the stunning sky barrier. Looking from the outside of the Thunder Capital, the energy beam that seemed to connect the sky and the earth was extremely eye-catching. Everyone in the Thunder Capital secretly sucked in a breath of cold air. They had no idea how popular the biennial martial tea gathering was. Such a frightening momentum was clearly not something an ordinary person could create. Rumble. The energy light beam dissipated, and only then did a loud boom spread out in all directions. However, there was no one on the stage. Yi Chen and the black sword artist had both disappeared. Yi Chen, it's time for you to take my sword. Up in the sky, the black sword artist's figure appeared. Both of his hands were gripping the huge black sword, raising it high above his shoulders. Then, he exerted his strength through his spine, transferring it to the muscles of his arms before finally pouring it into his palms in an explosive manner. Swoosh! A black waning moon suddenly appeared, and an extremely frightening black sword wave radiated out in a 180-degree fan shape. Its speed had already surpassed most people's senses. Facing this frightening sword, Yi Chen pulled out the thunder sword with his left hand. Without adjusting his grip, he directly slashed out. Een! The sword light without thunder lit up the sky of the Thunder Capital once again, slashing out with an increasingly domineering manner. Wherever it went, the air was shattered by the power of nothingness, leaving a shocking black sword mark. Sky Thunder Cut. The Sky Thunder Cut performed with his current power was far more powerful than when he had fought against the Red Water Minor Spiritual Master. It might have been a casual attack, or he might have been holding the sword in his left hand or holding the long sword in a reverse grip. After waving out this sword, Yi Chen seemed to have understood something. The Sky Thunder Cut could cut through anything, including the sword wave formed from sword chi. The sound of silk being cut was heard. Not only did the black sword artist's killing move have no effect, he even suffered a bit of a backlash. Of course, with his power, this bit of backlash was nothing to him. However, Yi Chen's power made him vigilant. This battle is going to be dangerous. I originally thought that the black sword artist, who had comprehended the slaughter sword intent, could slightly suppress Yi Chen. Even if he couldn't suppress him, he should at least be on par with him. But now, no matter how I look at it, it seems like the battle between Yi Chen and the Red Water Minor Spiritual Master is the same. Could it be that even the black sword artist is not a match for Yi Chen? The battle is not over yet. It's too early to say that. Who knows, the black sword artist might have a counterattack. After dozens of attacks, the two had fought from the sky to the ground. Sword chi that was enough to tear apart mountains were attacking each other in the sky of Thunder City. Black Dragon Wave. The black sword artist's strongest sword attack was naturally a profound sense martial art. However, due to various reasons, he did not have a deep understanding of the Black Dragon Wave, which was around 30% completion, which was still not as powerful as the Red Water Minor Spiritual Master Wang Qi. Therefore, this Black Dragon Wave was only as powerful as the last movement of his sword art. However, a profound sense martial art was still a profound sense martial art. Even if its power was not enough, its subtlety was still not something a normal sword art could compete with. The black sword was covered in a black mist. When the black sword artist stabbed out, the sword light was like a swimming dragon, without any fixed pattern or pattern. Even if it was someone with the same power as the black sword artist, it would be hard to avoid this sword attack. Their bodies would be pierced through and shattered. What a horrifying sword attack. I can't even see its trajectory. Dragons are legendary creatures. I heard that when a dragon flies in the sky, it would be impossible to see or touch it, as if it existed in another space. As a profound sense martial art, the black dragon wave would naturally not be like a normal martial art, where the word dragon would be used to increase its aggressiveness. It must have been added after careful consideration. Even if this black dragon wave is not related to the black dragon, it must be related to the flood dragon. Yi Chen is going to lose. Losing to this sword attack is not shameful at all. Everyone on the stage did not think that Yi Chen would win. Even if Yi Chen had had the upper hand since the beginning, and it had been going on until now, the battle between sword artists would be decided in just a second. So what if he had the upper hand? So what if the scene looked good? One sword attack would be able to wipe out all of his previous efforts. It was cruel, but also realistic. Right then, even Tua Baku, Li Daoxian, and the others were worried for Yi Chen. Mu Lingfeng was even more unable to control his emotions, his palm squeezing the armrest of his chair until it exploded. Facing this untraceable sword attack, a faint smile appeared on the corner of Yi Chen's mouth. He flipped the greenwood sword and put it behind his back. His left hand instantly grabbed the thunder sword's hilt at his waist, pulled it out, and sliced upwards. The sword light twisted back, wrapping around his opponent's strange sword light. Reverse sky thunder cut. It was the same sword attack from before. In just a short period of time, Yi Chen had already perfected it to a certain extent. What? The black sword artist's expression had just appeared on his face when he felt a sharp pain in his chest. The blood that had splashed out dyed his eyes red, making him feel hot and numb. Time seemed to have stopped. Without knowing why, the black sword artist recalled what Yi Chen had said before the battle: "This blood might not be mine, but yours." Chapter 457. The black sword light rolled back without any warning, and the black sword artist was sent flying by his own sword. Just like the essence of this profound martial skill, Black Dragon Wave, its trajectory was mysterious. If the opponent couldn't block it, then neither could the user. It was ironic. Spraying blood everywhere, the black sword artist crashed into the Jin Yuan barrier of the crowd in the pavilion. With his back as the center, a circular shockwave exploded. Many of the spectators stood up, and those who didn't were slightly trembling. Regardless of whether they stood up or not, they were all indescribably shocked. Unbelievable, unbelievable. He actually broke the black sword artist's profound martial skill and counterattacked. What kind of determination and sword technique is needed to achieve this? He previously said that this blood might not be mine, and might be yours. I thought he was just saying it casually, but I can't believe he actually did it. I can't deny that his sword Dao cultivation base is already above the black sword artist. If it could be said that the horrified expressions of the others were more or less filled with confusion and incomprehension, then the horrified expression of the deadly swordsman Ling Zhuo was completely filled with understanding and understanding. His title as the deadly swordsman was as his name implied. His sword art was extremely ruthless and ruthless. He walked a tricky path, making it impossible for one to see the trajectory of his sword or see the trajectory of his sword. By the time one saw his sword, it would already be too late. Although he didn't comprehend an elemental sword intent and couldn't compete with the black sword artist in terms of pure offensive power, his techniques could make up for this disadvantage. He had mastered a total of 3 top-rank Earth Realm sword arts, all of which he had cultivated to the extreme. Apart from that, he had also comprehended a low-rank profound sword skill to 40% completion. These 3 sword arts and 1 sword skill were all focused on killing in one strike. Even if he were to face the black sword artist, he wouldn't be afraid. In his opinion, the odds of victory were only 50-50. Either he would be defeated by the black sword artist, or he would be able to injure the opponent in a short time and win. There was no third possibility. Originally, after the fight between Yi Chen and the black sword artist, regardless of the outcome, Leng Zhuo would challenge one of them. But now, he no longer had the heart to challenge Yi Chen. This person's sword art was the type that Leng Zhuo was most afraid of encountering. It was perfect and flawless. Of course, a flawless sword artist didn't mean that he could defeat a flawed sword artist. However, there was no doubt that Leng Zhuo was most afraid of a flawless sword artist. In his opinion, Yi Chen was a flawless sword artist. Yi Chen had used the same amount of power to suppress the berserk black sword artist from start to finish. This was something that Leng Zhuo couldn't do. If he were to face Yi Chen, Leng Zhuo would probably be weaker than black sword artist. Especially after Yi Chen executed the reverse sky lightning cut, Leng Zhuo knew that he didn't have the slightest chance. Not to mention killing Yi Chen with a single strike, he would probably be killed by Yi Chen with a single strike. Leng Zhuo relaxed his clenched fists. He had already given up on challenging Yi Chen. Puff! Kneeling on one knee, the black sword artist vomited a mouthful of blood, his complexion extremely pale. You actually counterattacked my black dragon wave? His shock wasn't without reason. Yi Chen could shatter the black dragon wave, but he couldn't accept the fact that he was injured by the black dragon wave. Yi Chen glanced at the thunder sword in his left hand and said, for a moment of inspiration, I have to thank you. The reverse sky lightning cut was just something he had casually executed. After all, he was proficient in two great mentalities, one being the thunder mentality and the other the wood mentality. Sword arts that were propelled by these two mentalities needed a corresponding treasure sword to complement them. No matter how fast Yi Chen's sword-swapping speed was, there would always be a waste. Therefore, with a flash of inspiration, he used his left hand to reverse grip the thunder sword and executed the sky lightning cut. Thunder struck down from the sky, and it was called Sky Thunder. As it struck down, it was like a peerless treasure sword, sharp and unstoppable. The reverse sky lightning cut moved in the opposite direction, striking from below like the reversal of the universe. The sky was no longer the sky, and the earth was no longer the earth. Not only could it cut off the opponent's attack, it could even counterattack the opponent's attack, returning it to its normal state. It sounded easy, but it wasn't necessarily easy to do. The first time Yi Chen performed the reverse sky lightning cut, it wasn't the real one, because it didn't have any other function other than cutting off a bit more power. However, the second time he performed it, Yi Chen purposely made it work. It was all thanks to Yi Chen's powerful soul. Relying on his terrifying soul source, he was able to reverse the sky lightning cut in a short time, using the most powerful point of the attack at the moment of the sword attack and the weakest point at the moment of the attack. It was the exact opposite of the normal sky lightning cut. Therefore, no matter if it was the reverse sky lightning cut or the sky lightning cut, they were essentially the same. Otherwise, Yi Chen wouldn't have been able to recreate a sword movement that was more powerful than the sky lightning cut. The reverse sky lightning cut was not only a counterattack movement, but also an offensive one. However, the counterattack was a bit more strange, and impossible to defend against. In other words, with the reverse sky lightning cut, Yi Chen's awkwardness had been alleviated to a certain degree. Regardless of whether he wanted to admit it or not, the lack of sword movements was his biggest problem. Other people had the support of powerful martial institutions, so after learning a top-rank Earth Realm sword art, they could still learn a second one. If they got bored of top-rank Earth Realm sword arts, they could change their tastes and challenge more difficult profound sword arts. Up until now, he had only inherited one Green Lotus sword art, which was honestly very powerful. It was way more powerful than normal top-rank Earth Realm sword arts. It was almost the peak of top-rank Earth Realm sword arts, and there was no other top-rank Earth Realm sword art that could be more powerful than it. Because of this, the ninth movement was extremely hard to comprehend. Yi Chen suspected that with this amount of time, he could even comprehend a profound sword movement that required the thunder profound to 30%. Although once he comprehended the ninth movement of the Green Lotus sword art, its power would be unparalleled, and it might even surpass Yi Chen's imagination. However, if he did not comprehend the ninth movement, he would not be able to use it as his ace attack, and he would not be able to change the situation. Besides the Green Lotus sword art, the Sky Lightning Cut had been created by Yi Chen step by step. He had been using it from the beginning until now, and it had been extremely smooth. Besides these two, Yi Chen did not have any other ace sword art that he could use anymore. Right now, the Reverse Sky Lightning Cut had undoubtedly solved Yi Chen's urgent problem. In a situation where the power was equal, the importance of martial arts was way too big, and it was related to life and death. Hearing Yi Chen say that he would have to thank him for the sudden inspiration, Black Sword Artist almost puked out another mouthful of blood. Although he did not puke out any blood, his face was still extremely pale. His opponent still had the time to create an unimaginable sword movement in the middle of a fierce battle, which was no different from slapping his face. Sudden inspiration. Anyone could have a sudden inspiration, but it did not mean that it could be put into action. After all, this was not a battle between mortal realm martial artists, where a sudden inspiration could turn the tables. It should be known that they were absolute astral reaching experts, and that sudden inspiration, which could be put into action without any time, was completely useless. On the other hand, Yi Chen's sudden inspiration had almost beaten him half to death. The difference between the two was too big. Therefore, Black Sword Artist did not believe that this was a sword move created by Yi Chen's sudden inspiration. It was certainly his hidden ace. Thinking of this, Black Sword Artist felt much better. Being defeated by a hidden ace was something he could reluctantly accept, although his face was a bit unsightly. After the tea gathering, I will fight you again. Black Sword Artist had made up his mind to comprehend Black Dragon Wave to 40% completion. If not for the fact that he had spent too much time comprehending the Slaughter Sword intent, he would not have lost to Yi Chen today. However, he did not expect that without the Slaughter Sword intent, how would he be able to fight against Yi Chen? The huge black sword landed on the ground as Black Sword Artist stood up and returned to his seat without saying a word. Thunder Princess watched Black Sword Artist leave and slowly let out a breath, then announced, "This battle, Yi Chen wins." Hearing these words, everyone in South Rudra region had different expressions. Mu Lingfeng was ecstatic. He did not expect that at the last moment, Yi Chen would defeat Black Sword Artist so cleanly. That sword move was simply too stunning. Sikong Xing sneered, not knowing what he was thinking. Beside him, 7th Knight and 6th Knight exchanged a bitter smile, believing that they were not Yi Chen's opponent. Everyone else's expression was normal. They had long since seen how deep Yi Chen was. Perhaps, he still had more powerful killing moves. In Gold Sand Region's direction, the purple-haired bewitching woman beside Astral Spirit Sun turned her head and said, "Leng Zhuo, aren't you going to challenge him?" Dressed in gray clothes, the ordinary-looking Leng Zhuo was just like his name, cold and indifferent. It was as if nothing could attract his attention, yet he seemed to put everything in his eyes. His expression did not change, neither cold nor hot as he said, "I am not as good as him." Interesting. The purple-haired bewitching woman was slightly astonished. She was not a sword artist, so she did not know much about the deep-level battles between sword artists. However, she understood Leng Zhuo. This person's sword arts were unique, and he specialized in killing with one strike. Even if he were to face someone stronger than him, he would be fearless. There were examples to prove that in the past few years, he had killed countless sword artists stronger than him. He was called the Life Reaper sword artist by the people of Gold Sand region. The purple-haired bewitching woman originally thought that Leng Zhuo would challenge him. Who would have thought that he would directly say that he was not as good as Yi Chen? This did not sound like he was inferior in strength, but in the aspect he specialized in. In other words, Leng Zhuo believed that he had no chance at all. After defeating the black sword artist, Yi Chen felt that his Jin Yuan had been consumed quite a bit. He cupped his fists and said, "I've already fought 4 battles in a row, and my Jin Yuan consumption is not small. I'll go take a rest." After saying these words, he turned around and walked back to his seat. Looking at Yi Chen's back, a lot of people let out admiring gazes. 1 man and 1 sword, battling 4 people in a row, and defeating 4 of them in a row. Moreover, none of them were nameless warriors. Such an achievement would definitely cause a sensation. Because of him, the South Rudra region had jumped from the first level to the second level, and was unparalleled in the second level. Regardless of the outcome of the tea gathering, the title of the number 1 sword artist of South Rudra region had completely fallen into Yi Chen's hands. In a few days, it would spread throughout the entire South Rudra region, and his fame would resound throughout the whole region for the first time. Number 1 sword artist. South Rudra region. What kind of glory was this? Apart from the glory of being the number 1 sword artist, everyone believed that Yi Chen had the strength to enter the top 10. Top 3 wasn't too likely, but 4th, 5th, or even 6th was a possibility. He has truly become famous overnight. Everyone sighed inwardly. Yi Chen's departure from the stage made the following exchanges somewhat dull. However, everyone was looking forward to the fiery exchanges. After all, there were still many powerful figures who hadn't made their moves yet, especially the Thunder Princess, Edict Prince, and Astral Spirit Son. Chapter 458. In everyone's opinion, Leng Zhua, who didn't dare to challenge Yi Chen, was just an undeserved reputation. He didn't deserve the title of Fatal Sword Caesar, nor did he deserve to be called one of the 3 great sword artists of the southern sector. However, they were wrong. His strength was definitely beyond their imagination. 4 consecutive opponents were all famous sword artists, but they all lost miserably at his hands. The first opponent was Li Daoxian. He could only receive 1 sword strike, but he couldn't raise the second one no matter what, because Leng Zhua's sword was already on his neck. The second opponent was Feng Yanro, who could only receive 1 strike as well. It wasn't because her icy snow sword domain wasn't powerful enough, but because she didn't even have the time to use it. The opponent's sword was like a ghost, breaking through her defense before she could even react. It was terrifyingly fast and accurate. The third opponent was Fire Swamp Region's 2nd-ranked Underworld Flame sword artist. His strength was also above the previous 2, and he managed to receive 3 strikes from Leng Zhua. The first strike ended in a draw, the second strike knocked away his longsword, the third strike broke his protective Jin Yuan, and the fourth strike landed on his shoulder. The victory came so quickly that the spectators didn't even have the time to get excited. The fourth opponent was none other than Misty Snow Region's 1st-ranked Ling Hanya, also known as Drifting Snow Sword Artist. Despite his title, Ling Hanya's strength was only at the same level as Red Water Daoist Wang Qi, at most a bit higher. Therefore, he was still defeated, but at least he managed to exchange 7 strikes. At this point, the spectators finally understood that it wasn't that fatal sword artist Leng Zhua wasn't strong, but that Yi Chen was too strong. Even if he went up, he wouldn't be Yi Chen's opponent. What a frightening fatal swift sword. Mu Lingfeng mumbled. Yi Chen said, if the black sword artist's sword pursues destructive power, then Leng Zhua's sword pursues one-hit kill. The 2 are different styles, but from a certain perspective, Leng Zhua is more frightening. Mu Lingfeng faintly nodded. He was not a stupid person. Leng Zhua was like an assassin among sword artists, pursuing efficiency. Therefore, those with lower strength were even more unwilling to face him. In the following exchanges, Bing Ling, Mo Yan, Gu Yuyun, and Qian Yun all went up to challenge the young elites of other regions. Bing Ling's strength was only slightly inferior to Li Daoxian, Yan Qihua, and Bing Ling, which made many people exclaim at the freakishness of South Rudra region. With Yi Chen, Li Daoxian, and Yan Qihua, it was still not enough. Now, there was another Bing Ling. Perhaps the current lineup of South Rudra region couldn't compare to the top 3 regions, and in terms of average strength, it couldn't compare to the older regions like Misty Snow region, Cloud Billow region, and the other big regions. However, one had to understand the situation clearly. In the last tea gathering, South Rudra region was a joke. Among the hundreds of people present, only Sikong Sheng was from South Rudra region. Who would have thought that after 2 years, South Rudra region would undergo such a huge change, with powerful people emerging in large numbers? Bing Ling had shown her own brilliance, while Mo Yen had sunk into darkness. Of course, he would still be an amazing martial genius in South Rudra region. However, this was the southern regions, where there were no top geniuses, only more geniuses. The strength he had displayed was no different from normal geniuses. As for Gu Yuyun and Xian Yun, although they didn't display too much of their power, compared to their age and improvement in the past couple of years, they couldn't be ignored. What was certain was that in the future tea gathering, they would be the core power of South Rudra region. TSK. What a beautiful girl. Not only has South Rudra region completely changed, even the beauties here are extraordinary. Could it be that the heavens have started to love South Rudra region and have gathered all the natural essence there? Her name is Murong Qingqing, right? She is indeed like her name. As soon as Murong Qingqing went up, most of the young warriors were shocked. Some of the beauties who claimed to be beauties were also secretly jealous. Murong Qingqing's opponent was not a normal warrior, but the third-ranked young warrior of Snow Iron region. The result was shocking. Her opponent didn't even have the strength to fight back, and had no choice but to admit defeat. The second opponent was even more powerful. He was the 4th-ranked young warrior of Floating Light region. Floating Light region was the region where Edict Prince resided, and was publicly recognized as one of the 3 most powerful regions in the southern regions. If he were to enter Misty Snow region, he would probably be ranked 2nd. However, he still wasn't Murong Qingqing's opponent. How is this possible? What happened in South Rudra region? That cold beauty Bing Ling is already powerful enough, but this Murong Qingqing is even more powerful. Not to mention the average strength, South Rudra region is definitely the number 1 region below the 3 most powerful regions. It's too frightening. Unknowingly, South Rudra region had become the center of everyone's discussion, and it had never stopped. Interesting. My hands are itching. In the Thunder region formation, young cult leader Yin Zhongli, who was sitting beside Beast Prince Mo Xiang, stood up and walked up to the stage with a smile. What? Yin Zhongli is going to challenge Murong Qingqing. Yin Zhongli was very famous in the Thunder region. In the last tea gathering, he was ranked just below Mo Xiang, ranked 3rd in the Thunder region. However, Mo Xiang did not compete with him at that time. Seriously speaking, it was very likely that they were evenly matched. Even if Mo Xiang was stronger, he was only slightly stronger. Both of them had the strength of the top 10 of the southern sector. Yin Zhongli, one of the 10 fake dragons. On the other side, Edict Prince muttered. The beautiful girl named Yuxian shook her head, he will lose. Oh. Edict Prince was slightly surprised. If it were someone else who said this, he would have thought it over. However, since it was Yuxian who said it, he had to believe it even if he didn't want to, even though he knew that it wasn't good to blindly believe it. Yuxian's strength was not as good as his, but only he knew that her eyesight was frightening. It was a kind of deep insight. As the young leader of the Shining School and the great-grandson of the Shining King, Yin Zhongli was undoubtedly powerful. However, he was famous for his speed, which was like a flickering ghost. Once he activated his speed, apart from the Thunder Princess and the other 2, everyone else would have a headache. Shoo! 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 A dark yellow light flashed everywhere, and the crowd could no longer see Yin Zhongli's body. Light cut. Suddenly appearing behind Murong Qingqing, Yin Zhongli waved his arm, and a thin light arc that was dozens of meters long shot out like a flash of light. Crack! The light arc did not hit Murong Qingcheng, but only created a large cluster of sparks on the exposed thunder iron. However, it seemed to be protected by a layer of restrictive energy, and was not damaged in the slightest. Yin Zhongli's brows creased. In that split second, Murong Qingcheng had taken a couple of steps to the side. It was as if she had teleported, which was even faster than teleportation. 1,000 twist 100 stabs. Pushing his speed to the limit, Yin Zhongli would launch an attack every time he turned around. All of a sudden, the whole place was filled with his attacks, which was extremely strange. Heaven's rebuke. A black light flashed through her eyes as Murong Qingcheng found Yin Zhongli's rhythm. She threw out a palm attack in advance, which contained a repulsive force. Not good. Yin Zhongli's body paused, forcefully changing his movement trajectory. Puff. The repulsive force was shapeless and formless. Yin Zhongli was fine, but a young man from the Snow Iron region 1 li behind him was out of luck. He spurted out a mouthful of blood and flew out of the platform. He can actually see through my movement. Yin Zhongli was bewildered. Not only was Yin Zhongli bewildered, even the Thunder Princess and the other two were bewildered. They could only vaguely distinguish Yin Zhongli's movement trajectory from outside the arena. If they were on the scene, they would definitely not be able to attack in advance. No wonder you said that Yin Zhongli would lose. Edict Prince believed that in terms of seeing through movement trajectories, he was not as good as Murong Qingcheng, and his opponent was probably at the same level as Wuxia. In terms of perception, the two of them were absolutely peerless. It's the same in the underground world. It was not the first time that Yi Chen had seen her perception power. That kind of perception power was not very likely to be mental power. Instead, it was a deeper and more mysterious power, a power that no one else could cultivate. Having his movement trajectory seen through continuously, Yin Zhongli finally lost his patience. The reason why he could be ranked third in the Thunder region and think that he would not lose to Mo Xiang was because of his movement skill. But now, his movement skill was useless, and his power was greatly reduced. So what if I've been seen through? Take this move of mine. Yin Zhongli performed a profound martial skill and attacked Murong Qingcheng with all his strength. Flying Assassination Cut. As a genius disciple of the Sky-Flying Demon Martial School, it was impossible for Murong Qingcheng to not have trained a profound sense martial art. This profound sense martial art of hers was indeed the Flying Sky Assassination Cut, a horrifying killing attack that specialized in assassination. Combined with Murong Qingcheng's powerful observation, she would be able to pinpoint her opponent's weak spot within a second, jump into the air, and kill with one attack. Puff! Yin Zhongli's weak point was hit, and he was sent flying backward while vomiting blood. Unbelievably powerful. Even Yin Zhongli is not her opponent. Could it be that her power is not weaker than Yi Chen's? A small region that has been weak for a long time suddenly has 2 warriors in the top 10. This is crazy. Even the top 3 regions would not be this powerful. The Thunder Princess was a bit surprised at this result. But, she was indeed a true dragon-level genius of the southern region. She calmly announced, Murong Qingcheng wins. Murong Qingcheng nodded slightly and turned around to leave the stage. She did not seem to want to continue the battle. Yi Chen, Murong Qingcheng is also powerful. Mu Lingfeng turned his head to look at Yi Chen. After witnessing the battle between Murong Qingcheng and Yin Zhongli, he really did not know who was stronger, although Yi Chen had shown more power. Yi Chen faintly smiled, you only need to know that she is not simple. She always has been. Tua Baku said meaningfully, Yi Chen, you have to be careful of your position. Not only Murong Qingcheng, but Xikongsheng, I also want to beat you. Yi Chen said casually, if you can, then go and fight. I will be waiting for you here. Huh, if I don't show my power, you won't take me seriously. It's my turn. Tua Baku could feel Yi Chen's domineering aura, so he laughed and walked onto the stage with big steps. His tall and majestic body looked like it was made of steel. Bang! Unstoppable, steady like a mountain. This was the image that Tua Baku gave to everyone. His opponents were defeated one after another under his destructive attacks. I am already numb. Is this really the South Rudra region? His strength is not any weaker than Yi Chen's. 3 people from one region can compete for the top 10 of the southern region. What a frightening lineup. Sizing up Tua Baku on the stage, Edict Prince thought to himself, he should be one of the 10 fake dragons. Adding that Yi Chen and Murong Qingcheng, the South Rudra region would have 3 fake dragons. They are not to be underestimated. Although he could see how many real Dragon Chi and fake Dragon Chi were in the sky above the Thunder City, he would still have to distinguish them face to face. For example, before Tua Baku went on the stage, he would never associate him with the fake Dragon Chi. Seeing Tua Baku, who was once weaker than him, Yan Chihua felt suffocated for a moment. He murmured, so, he has already caught up to Yi Chen. Yi Chen was the target of everyone in the South Rudra region. But now, Tua Baku and Murong Qingcheng had both displayed strength that was not any weaker than Yi Chen's, which made him feel an incomparably heavy pressure. Chapter 459. Thunder Region Emo Xiang, please teach me. Tua Baku's power had ignited Emo Xiang's battle intent. In his opinion, the South Rudra region had been in the limelight enough already, and it was time to beat them down a bit. Especially after Murong Qingcheng had shown such a horrifying power. If he did not show it now, even he himself would feel embarrassed. After all, he had told her that if she ran into any trouble in the Thunder City, she should just tell him his name. Right now, it sounded so annoying. His body left a long shadow in the air as Emo Xiang landed lightly in front of Tua Baku. He had not even attacked yet, but a wave of powerful chi had already exploded. The main character is here. Tua Baku put away his relaxed expression. The Beast Prince Emo Xiang was not just anyone. He was ranked 2nd in the Thunder region and top 5 in the South region, a true dragon-level martial genius. Just the name of the Beast Prince was enough to oppress people to death. Not to mention the fact that he had not shown his power yet, so no one knew exactly how powerful he was. The two stood 100 meters away from each other, looking at each other quietly. Who? A gust of wind blew toward Tua Baku from the south to the north, and Emo Xiang's back was facing the wind. The second the wind started to blow, Emo Xiang moved. No one could describe how agile Emo Xiang's movement was. This kind of agility was not something a human should have, but a flying beast. He opened both of his arms, and before he could even think of anything, he had already arrived in front of Tua Baku, throwing out his most powerful attack. His body slightly tilted in the air as his right knee kicked out. Emo Xiang's attack was both simple and aggressive. Wild goose attack. Tua Baku's pupils shrank suddenly. Right then, Emo Xiang was no different from a beast in his eyes, and it was a beast that was full of intelligence. This simple knee attack brought up a blue meteor-like tail flame. In that split second, he could only cross his arms and take it head-on. Dong! One attacked with all of his power, while the other was defending passively. It was destined that Emo Xiang would have the upper hand. Tua Baku's feet rubbed the surface of the platform as he backed out. That powerful pressure formed behind him. So powerful. Tua Baku had to admit that he had underestimated Emo Xiang. Being able to be ranked in the top 5 of the southern regions, it was definitely not just for show. After gaining the upper hand in one move, Emo Xiang's offensive didn't stop. Borrowing the force of the collision, he soared into the sky and chopped down with a high kick. This high kick was like 100 zhang-long python pouncing at full strength towards his opponent. The terrifying leg pressure caused the air to surge like waves, rolling to both sides. Python pounce. Tuabaku was not a normal warrior after all. Even if he had lost the upper hand, he did not lose his calmness. Facing that powerful kick, he lowered his body into a horse stance and threw out a series of punches while backing out. Savage 18 punches. Boom! With Tuabaku as the center, countless fist shadows blossomed, looking like the blooming of a daffodil. Get down! Mo Xiang groaned with a low voice. His body twisted, and 7 human-shaped shadows shot out. These 7 human-shaped shadows combined with his real body, attacking Tuabaku with even more aggressive leg attacks. Each attack brought with it a horrifying poetic perspective. Hundreds and thousands of attacks were thrown down, like an army attacking a battlefield. Crack! Bending his knees, Tuabaku became a little shorter. The sound of his bones being squeezed kept on being heard. He suspected that if this continued, he would be squashed. A wild light shot out of his eyes as Tuabaku roared. His spine and knees straightened up. The second he straightened up, it was as if there were countless air bombs exploding around him. The chi flow was messy, forming into a dragon shape that lingered in the air for a long time. Dragon World. Who? Tuabaku threw out an extremely horrifying dragon-shaped chi into the sky. The dragon-shaped chi roared into the sky, its massive head seeming to be able to swallow Mo Xiang and the space around him. The thin air had been stirred up until it looked like liquid. Bring out all of your power. Otherwise, you will lose very soon. Mo Xiang's arms suddenly exploded with a blue chi flow. It was like fire, burning fiercely. He crossed his arms and lifted them up high before attacking down. Tiger Soul Cross Attack. Boom! That crossed light was like a sky blade. With one attack, the dragon-shaped chi was shattered into pieces. Tuabaku puked out a mouthful of blood and was blown backward. So powerful. Is this the power of the Beast Prince Mo Xiang? He is indeed one of the top 5 martial geniuses of the southern region. Even Tuabaku, who was at the same level as Yi Chen, was not his opponent. It seems like in this tea gathering, Mo Xiang's status will still be the same. Everyone was shocked by Mo Xiang's battling power, especially the people from the Thunder region. They were all excited, and their faces were full of pride. Mo Xiang being powerful meant that their Thunder region would be powerful as well, even though they still had the Thunder Princess, who was even more powerful. This guy is so powerful. Wiping off the blood on the corner of his mouth, Tuabaku lifted up his head. His wild eyes released an even more intense battling intent, as if he had just woken up. Interesting. Mo Xiang could sense the change in Tuabaku, and his nerves tightened. Shoo! Tuabaku bent his knees and shot into the air. His left and right hands each threw out a dragon-shaped chi attack at Mo Xiang. I told you, this is useless against me. Tiger Soul Cross Attack. The crossed light flashed once, and the 2 dragon-shaped chi attacks shattered instantly. However, in the next second, a shocking scene happened. A colorful giant lizard shadow appeared behind Tuabaku. Its body looked like a lizard, but its head was a real dragon head. With the help of the giant lizard shadow, Tuabaku looked like a god as he threw out a palm attack. Awoo! A loud dragon roar was heard as the giant lizard shadow extended its neck and bit Mo Xiang, smashing him onto the ground. Blood spilled out of Mo Xiang's mouth. He had been wounded. What? No one had expected this kind of change to happen to Tuabaku's body. They all opened their mouths wide, not knowing what to say. Right next to Mu Lingfeng, a strange look flashed through Yi Chen's eyes. Giant lizard shadow, 3-headed snake shadow. Perhaps there is some kind of connection between them. When people from the Wang family of the Snake Island battled with all of their power, a 3-headed snake shadow would appear behind their backs. The more powerful they were, the more snake heads they would have. Wang's snake had a 5-headed snake tattoo on his body, which meant that his bloodline was extremely rich, and his potential was extremely powerful as well. What I am sure of is that Tuabaku does not have a king bloodline, but his bloodline seems to be even more powerful than that. The king bloodline would show one's potential, but it would not affect one's current power. However, Tuabaku's bloodline could increase his power drastically, which was something that the king bloodline could not compete with. This is your real power. Puking out a mouthful of blood, the qi flow outside of Mo Xiang's body started to move rapidly. Because of the speed, his whole body looked like it was being cooked. Endless blue qi flow spread out from inside to outside, burning fiercely and twisting, which made Mo Xiang's aura increase drastically. A bloody battle. It was about to start. Enough, this battle is considered a draw. The Thunder Princess could tell that the two were fighting with all their might. If they continued to fight, one of them would die for sure. Plus, this was just a friendly battle, not a life and death battle. Dispersing the giant lizard shadow behind him, Tuabaku chuckled, "Consider yourself lucky. Otherwise, even I would not be able to control the situation from now on." Mo Xiang sneered, "You are lucky as well. Besides the battle with the Edict Prince in the last tea gathering, I have never shown my full power." Same here. The two's battle intent was endless, and they wished they could fight again. Seeing the two clashing with each other, the spectators did not find it funny at all. Since the beginning of the tea gathering, this would be the most powerful battle. Whether it was Yi Chen against the Black Sword Artist or Murong Qingqing against Yin Zhongli, none of them could compare to this battle. In their minds, Tuabaku and Mo Xiang were already the most powerful warriors below the top 3 dragon-level martial geniuses. Without any surprises, they would definitely be in the top 6. As for Yi Chen, although his sword arts were powerful, and that reverse sky thunder cut had shocked a lot of people, it did not mean that he was powerful. The two were completely different concepts. I really did not expect that the most powerful warrior in the South River region would not be Yi Chen, but this Tuabaku. Ling Hanya shook his head and forced a smile. He was thinking about what his rank would be in the South River region. There were Tuabaku, Yi Chen, and Murong Qingqing in front of him, and he would only be ranked 4th at most. If that Sikong Sheng was also extremely powerful, he would only be ranked 5th. In the Misty Snow region, he would be ranked 1st, but in a small region like the South River region, he would only be ranked 4th or 5th. The reality was indeed a joke. Qingzhu also sighed, "I thought Yi Chen was the most powerful one in the South River region." Feng Yanro did not say anything. Her intuition told her that Yi Chen was not that simple. But, the truth was right in front of her eyes, and she could not refute it. Plus, this Tuabaku was indeed powerful, ridiculously powerful. The second that giant lizard shadow appeared, it seemed like it had brought her to a wild world. "How is it? Not bad, right?" Returning to his seat, Tuabaku picked up his teacup and drank all of the tea inside as he chuckled to Yi Chen. Yi Chen nodded, "Why do I feel like our South River region is a place full of hidden dragons and crouching tigers? Before, there was Murong Qingqing, and now, there is you." There was one more person that he did not mention, which was Su Jing. Tuabaku knew what he was talking about, so he said mysteriously, "I cannot tell anyone about this." Yi Chen smiled, but did not say anything else. In the third pavilion nearby, the 7th knight said to Sikongsheng, "Plans cannot keep up with changes. 4th knight, it seems like your biggest opponent is not Yi Chen, but Tuabaku." Sikongsheng looked at Tuabaku with a serious expression and said lightly, "Take it slow." Tuabaku's sudden appearance was something that he had not expected. Facing Tuabaku face to face, he did not have the confidence to win at all. As for who was more powerful and who was weaker, he would have to fight to find out. Bystanders would not be able to understand the real details of the battle after all. Otherwise, the battle would be meaningless. A bit of light appeared in the sky. Unknowingly, a night had passed. The tea gathering was said to be going for 3 days, but it was actually going for 3 days and 3 nights. For astral reaching realm warriors, 3 days and 3 nights without sleep would not affect them at all. Once they reached the Sea of Souls realm, 1 month without sleep would not affect their mental state and battling power at all. It would only make them more excited. After the battle between Tuabaku and Immortal, the heated atmosphere had calmed down. Everyone also needed time to digest the experience that they had gained from watching the previous battles. While drinking tea, they talked to each other in a low voice, looking like a real tea gathering. Chapter 460. Yeah, this guy's wood mentality is not bad. It has a thorny feeling to it. Whip? That's right. The wood mentality can represent many things, such as big trees and thorns. It can also represent vines. Vines are very soft, and with a whip, it would have a huge destructive power. The thickness of wood is not the same as the thickness of soil. It is more holistic. There were around 400 people participating in the tea gathering, and more than 40 of them had mastered the wood mentality. Although all of them had mastered the wood mentality and had already reached the limit, the wood mentality of each one of them was different and not the same. While they were sparring, Yi Chen would carefully observe the wood mentality contained in their martial arts, gradually perfecting his own, preparing for the 9th movement of the Green Lotus sword arts. No matter how powerful Yi Chen's sword intent was, the lack of killing moves would always be a problem. Therefore, he had to learn the 9th movement of the Green Lotus sword arts. With this move, he would have 3 killing moves, which would be more or less enough for him at the moment. As he observed more and more, he learned more and more. Yi Chen suddenly reached out his right hand, using his fingers as a sword to practice. Shoo! 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 Without using Jin Yuan or sword intent, Yi Chen was just practicing calmly, as if he was drawing a pattern in the air. However, after dozens of fingers, a change occurred. Wherever Yi Chen's fingers passed, the air seemed to be sliced by an extremely sharp sword, making a swishing sound. Later on, an extremely faint finger light appeared on his fingertip. This finger light had nothing to do with anything else, it seemed to be the sharpness of Yi Chen's body. The sharpness of his fingers was condensed from the sharpness qi. What is going on? Tuabaku and Mu Lingfeng looked at Yi Chen with shock. They were sure that Yi Chen did not use his Jin Yuan or sword intent, but where did that finger light come from? It was so sharp, indescribably sharp, as if its very nature was sharp. His palm lightly patted the table, and the small teacup jumped up. Tuabaku flicked the cup with his finger, and it shot out without a sound, passing by Yi Chen. Coincidentally, Yi Chen's finger tapped on the teacup. Time seemed to freeze for a moment. An extremely thin and sharp gust of wind shot out from the back of the teacup, leaving a small hole in the pavilion pillar. On the other hand, the teacup was not damaged at all, and the tea inside did not spill out. Grabbing the teacup with his left hand, Yi Chen took a sniff. It smelled nice, so he handed it over to Tuabaku. Tuabaku caught the teacup and hurried to check it, then again. Eventually, he lifted up his head and said with confusion, "No holes." Yi Chen smiled and said, "Of course there are no holes." The holes on the pillars of the pavilion? That hole was caused by my inability to control my sword intent. Strange. Tuabaku still could not figure it out. If it was made by the sword intent, then it would not be possible for it to reach the pillar through the teacup. But if it was not made by the sword intent, then the hole on the pillar would not have formed in the first place. Both of them were impossible, so which one was more possible? The edge of the sword. It turns out that I am still missing the gold mentality. By observing other people's wood mentality, Yi Chen's understanding of the wood mentality was quite deep. He had already seen the beginning of the 9th movement of the Green Lotus sword art. Therefore, he became interested and started to practice it with his fingers instead of his sword. As he trained, he forgot about the wood mentality and the ninth movement of the Green Lotus sword art. He sank into that kind of understanding of the sword. Since he had always been using the sword to fight against his enemies, and the sword was made of metal, it was naturally sharp. Therefore, his sword arts had always been sharp as well. But without the sword, he realized that he still lacked the sharpness, the edge of the sword. Until then, he finally understood how sad it would be for a sword artist to not learn the gold mentality, since no matter how good the other mentalities were, they would not be as sharp as the gold mentality. The gold mentality was like the bridge between the sword artist and the sword. With this bridge, the sword artist would be able to push their edge to the extreme and show the power of a sword artist. On the other hand, without this bridge, the sword artist would always be separated from the sword, and would not be able to burst out the extreme attacking power. Although I have only understood it now, it is not too late. Yi Chen let out a breath as his eyes landed on the small hole in the middle of the pillar. The hole was indeed created by the sword intent, but it was attached to the sharp qi. The sharp qi was formless and intangible, and the sword intent itself was also formless and intangible. Once it reached a certain level, it would be able to affect reality, which was why it had become formless and tangible. The two did not combine before going through the teacup, which was why the teacup did not shatter. After going through the teacup, the sharp qi and the sword intent combined and immediately left a small hole on the pillar. This finger attack contained all of Yi Chen's sharpness. But it was still far from enough. The ninth movement of the Green Lotus sword art is already showing signs. Next, I need to learn the gold mentality. I almost know where I should go in the future. The famous sword artists all had their own paths, which were their own sword arts. For a long time, Yi Chen's sword arts had not been very clear, and he only knew how to walk on it. But now, he had found his own sword arts. It might be full of thorns, but once it was completed, he would be the number one on it. He would be able to compete with the ancient sword kings, and it would also allow him to step on the higher path of the Sword Emperor. Sword Emperor. What was the Sword Emperor? The king of the sword, the number one in all of history. No matter how powerful the ancient sword king was, he was only a sword king, not a sword emperor. The reason why he could not be called emperor was because he could not compete with the other emperors of the same generation, and was forced to call himself a king. Although there was no limit to one emperor, it was still extremely hard to become the sword emperor. Yi Chen had already prepared for anything. Clenching his fists slightly, Yi Chen could feel his blood boiling. Boom! The qi waves on the stage shot up into the sky, shaking the entire pavilion slightly. Yi Chen looked over and realized that it was Xikong Sheng who had entered the arena. His opponent was very powerful. He was the number one young warrior in the Fire Swamp region, and his power was not weaker than the number 3 warrior in the Thunder region, Yin Zhongli. The two exchanged dozens of attacks. The sky-high qi waves had nowhere to go, and they kept shooting up into the sky. Lose. His opponent performed a profound sense martial art, attacking toward Xikong Sheng heavily. Xikong Sheng was not scared at all, and he also used his profound sense martial art to fight back. Boom! A mottled light ball exploded, and Xikong Sheng backed out quickly without being wounded at all. However, his opponent did not know what had happened to him, but his body was frozen right there as he took the attack head-on, puking out a mouthful of blood. Xikong Sheng's profound sense martial art is a bit strange. Yi Chen had seen through it immediately. It was not that the number one young warrior in the Fire Swamp region did not want to back out, but he could not. That fist attack from Xikong Sheng seemed to have some kind of connection with the ground, using the endless gravity to freeze his opponent, forcing him to not be able to lift his feet for a second, forcing him to take the attack head-on. Chapter 461. As for Xikong Sheng's power, no one had the energy to be amazed anymore. They all knew that in this tea gathering, there were 4 powerful warriors from the South Rudra region, Tua Baku, Yi Chen, Murong Qingcheng, and Xikongsheng. All of them had the power to make it into the top 10. The other regions, including the top 3 regions, were all weaker than the South River region in terms of top warriors. For example, the Thunder region would only have the Thunder Princess, Mo Xiang, and Yin's only. The top warriors from the Floating Light region had not all shown up yet, but there would not be more than 3 of them. It was the same for the Gold Sand region. Besides the top 3 regions, there were also the Black Sword Artist from the Black Gold region and the number 1 young warrior from the Fire Swamp region, CMO, who had just been beaten by Xikongsheng. Lu Hun from the Floating Light region. After Xikongsheng had beaten CMO, another powerful warrior stood up. He was the number 2 warrior from the Floating Light region, Lu Hun. Just like Mo Xiang, he was also one of the top 5 martial geniuses from the southern regions, with a dragon-level battling power. I hope he does not end up in a draw. Mo Xiang did not think that Lu Hun would lose, but he was afraid that Lu Hun and Xikongsheng would end up in a draw. After all, the tea gathering was supposed to be a draw. On the 2 miles wide stage, Xikongsheng and Lu Hun stood 100 meters away from each other. The two attacked almost at the same time. Xikongsheng's body shook once as he performed his space move step, appearing right next to Lu Hun within a second and throwing out a punch. Fist Tyrant River. Boom! The fist that carried a horrifying power was stopped by a palm, and the owner of the palm was naturally Lu Hun. His body was not huge, and his aura was not aggressive either. However, his body was filled with a mountain-like aura. Under that heavy aura, his every movement was extremely firm. Even when he was blocking Xikongsheng's palm attack, he still looked extremely calm and relaxed. The fist power and the palm power clashed with each other, and the blast wave that exploded was like a huge pot that had been flipped upside down, blowing the two away. Fist-shattering river. Xikongsheng wanted to win too much. Even when he was flying backward, he did not forget to attack. He pulled his right fist back to his waist and threw it out. The fist power pierced through the air, leaving a black mark in the air. The black mark extended toward Lu Hun's chest. True martial kill. Facing this powerful fist attack, Lu Hun straightened his right hand and turned his palm into a blade. He threw out a blade attack, cutting off the black mark's path and shattering Xikongsheng's attack. Whoosh! Whoosh! As soon as the two of them landed on the ground, they pounced at each other again. The switch between stillness and movement was so quick. Fist conquering the country. Fist breaking the mountains and seas. Fist breaking the sky. True martial divine palm. True martial interception. Dark counterattack. Both of them used their ultimate skills and were locked in battle. The entire arena was filled with the shadows of their fists and palm prints. Starry Sky Punch. Finally, Xikongsheng performed the last movement of his mysterious Sky Tyrant fist art. Its power was equivalent to 20 to 30% of a profound sense martial art. In the air above the mountain and mountain platform, countless stars flickered in a picturesque manner. That was the phenomenon created by the fist energy. Anyone who came into contact with any of the stars would suffer a crazy attack. Those who faced this attack would feel as if they were in the starry sky, unable to retaliate. Powerful. But, it does not work on me. A serious look flashed through Lu Hun's eyes. He stomped on the ground and turned his body into the air. Countless dark blue palm prints shot out toward Xikongsheng's fist power. Each of them would cancel out one of the stars, taking up half of the space. As his Zhen Yuan was pushed to its limit, the dark blue light around his body intensified, continuously forming into dragon, phoenix, tiger, and turtle shapes, looking like a celestial being. Naturally, Xikongsheng did not think that he could beat Lu Hun easily. After all, the latter was at the same level as Mo Xianghe. Even if he was weaker, it would not be that much weaker. All of Xikongsheng's clothes fluttered in the air without any wind. He took a step forward with his right foot and threw out a fist attack. Wait, this fist attack did not hit the ground. It was stopped when it was 3 feet away from the ground. However, a wave of ocean-like chi power had spread out along the ground. At first, it was messy, but halfway through, it had shrunk to half its size. By the time it reached the ground below Lu Han, it had already condensed into a beam and exploded, spreading out in a fan shape. Pap! 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 Before the chi power arrived, the spiral chi field outside of Lu Han's body had already sensed it, making a weak exploding sound. However, Lu Han did not care about it at all. The dark blue turtle formed by his Jin Yuan suddenly sank down and was stepped on by his feet before falling down. Boom! The exploding sound of chi power continued to be heard. Sikong Sheng's attack had been shattered completely before it could even land. That dark blue turtle had an unimaginable suppressive power. Dragon, phoenix, tiger, turtle. The martial art on the turtle is the earth mentality. Perhaps, you have mastered all 4 of them. Sikong Sheng sneered as he jumped out, throwing out the profound sense martial art that he had used to beat CMO, the top young warrior in the fire swamp region, the earth core sinking. Yah! Such a horrifying gravity. Stepping on the dark blue turtle made of Jin Yuan, Lu Han felt that he could not move even an inch, as if he was being pulled by the gravity deep underground. Right in front of him, Sikong Sheng's fist enlarged in front of his eyes, that horrifying fist power attacking at a high speed in a spiral shape. If you can't dodge it, then you will have to face it head on. You might not be able to dodge it. White Tiger Kill. Sinking his chi into his dantian, Lu Han's eyes shot out a godly light. He reached out his left hand and placed his right fist on his waist, throwing out a punch with a white gold light, clashing with Sikong Sheng's fist power. Boom! A mottled light ball was formed between the two's fists. In the next second, the light ball exploded. Pooh! Pooh! It was not only Lu Han who puked out blood, but Sikong Sheng was also puking out blood. How is this possible? Sikong Sheng realized that he was the same as his opponent, unable to move even an inch. He had been forced to take on the backfire of the blast wave, which had wounded his internal organs. Lu Han wiped the blood off his mouth. My black tortoise suppression had suppressed everything within dozens of meters, including you. Although the backfire of the blast wave was very powerful, it had already been weakened by 30%. In other words, I had only taken on 70% of the backfire. What about you? Sikong Sheng had a bad look on his face. He could tell that Lu Han's wound was lighter than his. If they continued to fight, he would definitely not be his opponent. In the distance, Mo Xiang, who was watching the battle, laughed, although Lu Han and I have the same power, he is much more durable than me. Fighting with him head-on, the one who would suffer is 80%. As a true dragon-level warrior, the Thunder Princess had naturally seen all the details of the last battle. She said lightly, "This battle, Lu Han wins." To be able to push Lu Han to this level. Below the top 3 true dragon-level warriors, only the Beast Prince, Mo Xiang, had managed to do this. Although he lost, it was still an honor. This Sikong Sheng is indeed powerful. Everyone was well aware of this result. Although it seemed like Sikong Sheng had lost to Lu Han, he was actually being suppressed. If it were another warrior who was at the same level as Lu Han, he might not lose. The sun had risen to the middle of the sky, and it was already afternoon. By now, everyone had a rough ranking in their hearts. If there were no accidents, this ranking would be the truth. In most people's minds, the top 3 would be the top 3 true dragon-level warriors, which were the Thunder Princess, the Edict Prince, and the Astral Spirit Son. The top 7 would be Mo Xiang, Tua Baku, Lu Han, and Sikong Sheng. The top 15 would be Yi Chen, Murong Qingcheng, the Black Sword Artist, the Deadly Sword Artist, Leng Zhua, Yin Zhongli, CMO, those young warriors who were ranked at the back basically had no hope of fighting for a higher rank, since no matter how hard they tried, they would still be at the back. They could just find some warriors with similar power to fight, since there were so many of them, and the further they were at the back, the harder it would be to determine their rank. In the afternoon, another top battling power had appeared in the Gold Sand region, and it was the beautiful lady with purple hair who was standing right next to the astral spirit sun. She had rarely been out in the martial world before, and no one knew about her. Even the young warriors of the Gold Sand region barely knew about her, so they did not know her power. But, once she attacked, the power she had displayed was enough to shock people. She was actually a dragon-level warrior who was not weaker than Immortal. Murong Qingqing, let's have some fun. The beautiful lady with purple hair called herself Luo Shanv. She seemed to be very interested in Murong Qingqing. After beating a couple of powerful warriors, she called out her name. All right. Murong Qingqing nodded and flew into the air. Boom! 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 The battle between the two was extremely intense. The purple light and the black light interweaved and clashed continuously, each occupying half of the sky. Luo Shan's attacks were ruthless, and each of them was extremely explosive. Murong Qingqing's eyesight was unparalleled. She could always block out Luo Shan's fatal attacks and attack her weak points. She was even more powerful than Imo Yan's sky demon eyes. Plus, every time a black light flashed in Murong Qingqing's eyes, her battling power would increase by a lot, which forced Luo Shan to defend for a while to avoid exposing a fatal flaw. I was wrong. Murong Qingqing does not seem to be weaker than Luo Shan. Doesn't that mean that her power is also at the same level as Immortal? It is just that she did not show it before. Inside the South Rudra region, the weakest one would be Yi Chen. I really do not understand. Not necessarily. The South Rudra region is full of powerful warriors. Perhaps, Yi Chen has hidden his power as well. That is not possible, right? Tuabaku, Xikongsheng, and Murong Qingqing are all at the demi-dragon level. Adding Yi Chen, it would be too much. Stop talking. The winner is about to be decided. Boom! The chi waves spread out on the battlefield as the two human figures were blown back. Flying sky assassination cut. Touching the ground with the tip of her foot, Murong Qingqing threw out her ace attack. Luo Shan's purple hair danced in the air as a deep purple light shot out from her eyes. She threw out a purple light arc with her spear, which blocked out Murong Qingqing's attack. Then, she twisted her body, holding another short spear in her left hand. She stabbed it towards Murong Qingqing's chest. That spear attack had almost blocked all of Murong Qingqing's escape routes. Besides fighting it head-on, there would be no other option. And if she fought it head-on, then the one who would lose would probably be Murong Qingqing, since her attacking power was not as powerful as Luo Shan. Right then, a black light appeared on her skin. As the black light appeared, Murong Qingqing's chi field changed drastically. With the help of her chi, a black chi flow appeared above the Thunder City. However, all of a sudden, the black light on Murong Qingqing's skin disappeared, and the black chi flow above the Thunder City disappeared as well, as if it was just an illusion. Dong! In the end, Murong Qingqing lost to Luo Shan and was slightly wounded. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.